I thought I was finally safe under my blanket, but then something cold slipped across my leg. My breath froze, and before I could scream, I realized I wasn't alone in my bed. That night, I went to bed thinking it would be just like any other. The blanket was warm, the silence deep, and my body slowly gave in to exhaustion. I pulled the sheets higher, letting the soft fabric brush against my skin, convincing myself I would finally rest without interruption. But the moment my breathing steadied, something shifted. The air in the room thickened, heavy enough to make my chest feel tight. I told myself it was nothing, just my imagination. Yet deep down, I knew I wasn't alone. It started with the faintest pressure at the edge of the mattress, like a hand testing its weight. My stomach knotted, my pulse thudded in my ears. I tried not to move, but every nerve in my body screamed that something had just joined me in bed. And then came the touch, cold at first, sliding along my calf so lightly I almost doubted it. Almost. The sensation lingered, slow, deliberate, tracing the curve of my leg as though unseen fingers were learning every detail. My breath caught, and the warmth of fear spread through me, mixed with something far more confusing. I told myself to kick, to scream, to run, but instead I froze, trapped between terror and anticipation. The weight on the mattress shifted closer, pressing near my hips. My shirt rode up slightly as the air grew warmer against my skin. I swallowed hard, gripping the blanket to my chest, but even that small movement seemed to invite it. The presence leaned closer. I could feel breath, hot and steady, moving across my shoulder. And then it brushed my hair, not roughly, not even firmly, just a slow, careful caress, as if savoring the moment. My scalp tingled, my heart slammed harder, and I knew with a terrible certainty this wasn't a dream. Something was here. I tried to open my eyes, to force myself into the safety of sight, but I couldn't. My lids felt like lead. My body was no longer my own. I felt exposed, every inch of me waiting for the next touch, and when it came gliding up from my thigh to the edge of my hip, I nearly gasped. It wasn't violent. It was worse. It was intentional, intimate. The scent filled the air next, earthy, sweet, intoxicating. It wrapped around me like smoke, dizzying, disorienting, making my thoughts blur. My chest rose and fell too fast. My lips parted in silence. I told myself it was wrong, unnatural, but my body betrayed me, leaning into the invisible caress. And just as I thought I could take no more, I felt the blanket tug, not ripped, not pulled hard, just slid back, inch by inch, exposing more of me to the cool air. My skin prickled, my breath sharp. I whispered into the silence, "Please," not even sure if I was begging it to stop or begging it to continue. The answer was silence, heavy, suffocating silence. But I could feel it smile, without lips, without a face, just the certainty that it wasn't finished with me yet, but that was only the beginning of the night. I don't know how long I lay there, frozen in place, my heart pounding so hard it echoed inside my head. The presence didn't rush. It lingered, savoring every second, as though it knew I was caught in its trap. My body trembled, not just from fear, but from something I couldn't admit even to myself. The weight shifted again, slow, deliberate, pressing down beside me. The mattress dipped deeper, and I could feel the air stir with every invisible movement. A soft brush slid over my arm, feather light but undeniable, raising goosebumps across my skin. My lips parted, though no sound came out. I wanted to scream, yet my voice was locked away. Then it happened. The hem of my shirt lifted higher. like unseen fingers were tugging gently. The cool night air kissed my stomach, making me flinch. My pulse quickened, my breath uneven, but I didn't move. I couldn't. It was as if the silence of the room demanded my surrender. And when the touch returned, trailing across my ribs, I nearly arched into it. But here's where everything changed. The sensation grew bolder. No longer testing, no longer tentative. It traced me with a certainty that felt both terrifying and intimate. My skin burned beneath it, every nerve alive, screaming at me to resist. And yet, I stayed perfectly still. I thought it would stop, that maybe the presence would vanish as suddenly as it had come. But instead, I felt the mattress dip near my legs. My breath hitched as my thighs shifted, not by choice, but by some strange, invisible guidance. Slowly, inexorably, I was being positioned, opened, exposed. I whispered, "No," though it was barely a breath, and still I didn't move away. My chest rose and fell too fast, my heart racing, my body betraying me with every shallow gasp. A sound filled the room then, low, deep, vibrating through the air. Not words, not even a growl, something between a sigh and a claim. It sank into my bones, making my skin tighten, my thoughts blur. I knew, without seeing, that this was no ordinary intruder. And just when I thought I couldn't endure another second, I felt it, warm breath against my neck. Closer now, so close that each exhale tangled with my own. My hair shifted, strands brushing my cheek, though no one was there. I clenched the blanket tighter, but it only made me realize how little protection it offered. The presence hovered above me, heavy, charged, as though waiting for me to give in. My mind screamed to resist, to run, but my body wanted to know what would happen if I didn't. I forced myself to turn my head ever so slightly toward the emptiness beside me. My eyes remained shut, but I could feel it, like a face hovering inches from mine. The warmth of a mouth so close, too close, and then, without warning, the silence shattered. The blanket slid again, further this time, bearing me to the cold. My skin lit up with sensation, a rush of panic and heat tangled into one. I couldn't stop trembling, couldn't decide if I was terrified or wanting. But the worst part? I knew it wasn't finished with me. Not yet. I thought the worst had already happened. But I was wrong. The weight pressed heavier beside me, pulling me deeper into the mattress. I could feel it, an unseen body hovering over mine, radiating heat without shape or form. My chest rose and fell too fast, my breath shaky, shallow, uneven. I wanted to move, to break free, but every nerve in me was trapped between fear and something dangerously magnetic. Then I felt it, a slow caress across my waist, moving upward with intent. My stomach clenched, my skin prickled, and I whispered a broken plea, though I didn't even know if I wanted it to stop or continue. The silence answered back with only breath, warm against my cheek, closer, closer, until I swore lips hovered just inches away. And here's the part I can't forget. My own body betrayed me. My trembling leg shifted, arching ever so slightly as though inviting more. I didn't mean it. I swear I didn't. But the presence responded instantly. A low hum rumbled in the air, satisfied, claiming. My heart thundered as invisible fingers brushed along my ribs, pausing just beneath my chest. I froze, waiting, terrified of what would come next. Suddenly the room changed. The air grew cold, the mattress lighter, the touch gone. I gasped, realizing I could finally move again. I sat up quickly, clutching the blanket around me, my eyes darting to every corner of the room. Nothing. just silence, just shadows. But then I saw it. At the foot of the bed, the blanket was indented, pressed down in the unmistakable shape of knees. My stomach dropped. They lingered there for several seconds, unmoving, as though someone or something was still watching me. And then, just as my breath caught, the indentations slowly smoothed themselves out. The bed returned to normal. I was alone again, or at least, that's what I told myself. But the scent in the air proved otherwise, earthy, sweet, intoxicating. It clung to my skin, to the sheets, to every breath I took. I wasn't imagining it. I hadn't dreamed it. And even now I know the truth. I wasn't spared. I was marked. Because once something touches you in the dark, once it claims a part of you, it always comes back. Have you ever felt a touch you couldn't explain? Share your story in the comments and subscribe to Paranormal Sleep for more nights you'll never forget.